Hey guys, it's Rita here with Empowerment and All That. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast. I want to let you know that I'm actually using Anchor as the easiest way to make this podcast. Anchor actually gives me everything that I need all in one place for free, which I can use right from my phone or my computer. The creation tools allow for me to record and edit my podcast so it sounds fabulous. Best part about it, though, is that they distribute it for me so I can be heard anywhere from Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and so many more. Want to know a secret? You can actually make money from this podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. Now back to the show. Hey guys, it's Rita here with Empowerment and All That. I wanted to take a quick second and thank you all for all the love and support that I've received on the first episode. I've had a chance to get over 200 listeners to tune in from the US, France, and Ireland. So from the bottom of my heart, I sincerely thank you. Now today's episode is called Entrepreneurship and All That, where I interview Boris Sanchez from Sanmore Investments. Boris is a commercial real estate developer in Houston, Texas, and he talks about his trials and tribulations of ownership and also all of the rewards. Stay tuned. I wanted to get started by telling everybody a little bit about you, but I kind of want you to give a quick little synopsis of who you are, what your footprint is in Houston, and then we can get started.
Sure, I'd love to. Sanmore Investments was founded by me about 7 years ago. We are commercial real estate investors, brokers, and lenders. We dabble in each of the commercial real estate areas, but specialize in multifamily. So we own over 220 units in Houston alone.
But you said you've developed like over 500 units already, right?
That's correct. We've had our hands in about 500 units and dozens of transactions with us and our clients, equaling, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars.
That's pretty impressive for someone at such a young age. You're like 22, 23 right now?
Oh, stop it. I'm 34.
I mean, that's always a good accomplishment at 34 years old to be able to say that you've been able to do all that. Now, entrepreneurship started for you at a very young age, didn't it?
Yes, it did. So I have a sort of a funny story about the very first time that I was dabbled in entrepreneurship. I was 6 years old. Mm-hmm. And I was in school in Colombia. I forgot what grade I was in. It was probably in first or second grade. So if your audience can picture, my school is in the side of a hill, a very steep hill. And the lunchroom was set up at the very top of that hill, and the classrooms all the way down, with our classroom being one of the bottommost classrooms. So obviously, just like any other kid, I guess, they send you out on lunch to go get your own lunch and stuff like that. We used to hike all the way up the hill to go get our lunch. And then one day I had the bright idea, being the entrepreneur, and having the idea that I always wanted myself. I just wanted, how can I say this? My own things, right?
Yeah.
I came up with it. Yeah, at 6 years old. Yeah, it's 6 years old. I guess this is where it starts. You want to have your own things and have a little bit of independence. So obviously, I felt that at a very young age. I started asking students if I could go get their lunch for 100 pesos, which is like 10 cents nowadays.
Yeah.
But actually proved to be very successful because at that point I was very skinny and I was actually agile. So I started asking the bigger kids first, and actually it went off without a hitch. I went off for weeks and went all the way up to the top of the hill, got their lunch, charged my 100 pesos, 10 cents, and I started amassing quite a wealth of 10 cents, for each transaction. But I'm just kidding. It was about 2 to 3 people that I used to go get lunches for. But then actually it took off. It took off so well that I had to hire other kids to actually do it for me. And I paid them 5 cents, and I kept 5 cents. So it was a crazy experience because afterwards, other kids started getting in on this and started being entrepreneurial as well. They started charging 8 cents instead of
the undercut.
Yeah. So obviously, what any entrepreneur would do is actually better the service and keep your prices or drop their prices, and with volume you can actually get a lot of stuff done. So I hired more kids, and even the competition was fierce, I was still doing pretty good. It all came to an abrupt end when the actual teacher found out this was going on and actually prohibited anybody from doing this. And so, we got stopped by the big man.
Man, that's terrible. It would have been the launch of like Uber Eats at a very young age in Colombia.
Exactly. You never know what that would have taken off.
So from here, we move on to you being like, 13 years old to ask for special permission to work?
Okay, so I moved to Houston with my family. Between there, obviously, we had a tumultuous time moving to this country. We moved because of the guerrillas, Pablo Escobar's mafia and guerrillas threatening to actually, kill us. So we had to come over here and escape our lives in Colombia to find better life.
Were you directly affected by that? Like they were actually threatening your family as a whole? My
mom was a very prominent Colombian lawyer, and she won a case against the mafia back then, and they literally kept dropping voicemails in her answering machine saying, hey, we know where your kids are. We know that your kids are riding the gray school bus, and we know that such and such and such. They just threatened our lives.
Right.
So at that point, my mom was like, this ain't gonna happen. Mm-hmm. We're out.
Yeah.
So we came to this country, seeking a better life, just like a lot of immigrants do.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was, a couple of years passed. I was 13 years old, and that kind of entrepreneur mindset never really left me. Mm-hmm. I've always wanted to have my own things and just be able to take off on my own. I was very independent. I was the independent guy in the mm-hmm. family. And so I asked my mom to take me to the courthouse and give me special permission so I can work at Burger King at 13 years old. And she did that. She was like, sure, yeah, no problem. She took me to the courthouse. I went back to Burger King with my permit, and I didn't get the job. I didn't get the job.
Damn you, Burger King!
I know. They probably regret it to this day. Huh? But I ended up doing surveys in the mall in front of Star Shots. For your audience that knows Star Shots, I was all about the Star Shots and asking people for surveys right outside of their store.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Star Shots, the glamour shots of our time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't decide to be a CEO of Star Shots, and then you go on to move to Shell Oil Company at 16, right?
Yeah. I mean, at 16, again, I had this feeling that wouldn't escape me that I wanted my own things. So when I was in high school, I signed up for this pre-op program. I'm sorry, it's not called pre-op. It's called co-op mm-hmm. program. And which, they hook you up with all sorts of companies willing to hire you, Lyondell, Shell Oil, AIG, Hess. There was a lot of companies. I actually made it into a Shell Oil company at 16. And I was ecstatic because I was getting paid all $14 an hour. In that time, it was actually a lot.
I mean, that's more than minimum wage right now, so it's still
true.
a lot.
That is true. So I was ecstatic. I made a lot of bad financial decisions with that money. I went and got a Porsche, I went all out. I was like, it was like I had it all. But obviously I had no idea what it is that I really had.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So 16 Shell, we started Uber Eats at 6, and now we're moving on to a billiard pool cue purchased from the Philippines. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Sure. So I kept on going with Shell Oil Company. At the same time, I graduated high school, and by the way, I was so focused on high school. I was so focused at work that I wasn't even in the high school yearbook. Mm-hmm. I went to one class and that's it. I wasn't even in the index of my high school yearbook, but I didn't care, whatever. I had my own things going on.
Yeah.
At the same time around there, I started an online store back when eBay was all the rage and e-commerce was taking off. So I started selling things around the house, and this is actually my very first formal entrepreneurial campaign. I started an online store, and I started selling things around the house, and then soon enough, other people wanted me to sell stuff for them, kind of like drop shipping.
Yeah.
And it got so good that I actually started making contacts in the Philippines, and I developed my own line of pool cues, of billiards pool cues, pool sticks, as some people may call them. They had natural shell, they had abalone, mother of pearl. I mean, they were really, really nice snakeskin. They were really nice pool sticks, and I sold them here for, what was it, like $100 a piece. I got them made over there for $20. So it was actually a pretty solid deal that I had until the supplier found out what I was doing and decided to cut me off.
Wow.
So up until now, actually, if you still log on to eBay, if you look for Boris, Boriz, you can still find the pool cues being available online.
Wow.
Because they've been so successful in getting these sold.
That's crazy. Do you get any royalties? I mean,
Nope,
that would be amazing.
Absolutely nothing.
Oh, man.
And so around that same time, other people, like I said, started noticing that I could sell. I had a power of selling a lot of stuff online. I met this gentleman whose name is Kevin, and we started drop shipping together. We actually, he would sell a lot of stuff. He had a lot of stuff in his garage, so I would sell a lot of this stuff. And then we started running out of stuff to sell.
Didn't you say you also sold everything out of your mom's house too, pretty much?
Yeah, pretty much. I actually sold some stuff I shouldn't have. One time I actually sold my brother's shirt because I was actually mad at him. I was like, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And it was like a $400 shirt, and I sold it for like $50.
Well, now is your time to apologize to your brother.
Sorry. I am sorry. He knows it.
Yeah.
So around this time, like I said, I met this guy named Kevin, and we started practicing drop shipping, which is when you actually never get to see the product but you sell it anyway. For example, let's say that you want to sell video cameras, like we did. You order them only after you've gotten paid. So you sell them before you buy. For example, you sell the video cameras at $1,500, like we started doing. But after people pay them, then we use that money to buy the video cameras at $800 a piece. And that's exactly what happened. In this instance, I sold a total of about 52 video cameras, and because they sold like hotcakes. And I trusted Kevin to actually forward and buy all of the video cameras and forward them to these people, but he actually never came through with that promise. He disappeared. I paid him all of the $55,000 that people had paid me.
Jeez.
And he completely vanished. And that was a pretty dark moment in my life, actually.
What do you think you learned from that situation in particular?
I learned that, unfortunately, I couldn't see it at that time because it was just so dark. It's not easy owing people, $55,000 at, 21, 22 years old. I sold everything that it took. They really shut me down. eBay shut me down. PayPal shut me down because I was getting sued right and left by people that had paid me directly. I had just forwarded the money to Kevin, but obviously I was in the hook for the $55,000, so I couldn't find him anywhere. So I started selling anything and everything it took, but I wasn't able to. So for the constable to show up at your front door and to say, hey, you stole money from these people, you got to pay back, and it's horrible. It's a horrible feeling for somebody that's actually just trying to, get a better life.
Especially at such a young age. 22 years old, what do you really know all the way through, right? And this is your third or fourth stab at actually trying to continue learning how to build wealth, right?
Build a business, that's right. I did whatever it took to get me out of that. I didn't, get into any vices, thank God, but I did, sell anything it took in order for me to make ends meet. like I tell people, I sold my shirt. It's whatever it took in order to pay these people back, and I still couldn't because it's $55,000 after all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's a pretty powerful lesson, though, in general for people who want to go out and be entrepreneurs. It's like the highs are really high, but the lows are pretty hard, and you have to be willing to roll through the punches and continue to deliver, right? Because it seems like you are going to deliver at any means possible if it meant selling the shirt off your back to do it.
Yeah, exactly. People know that getting screwed is not easy, and then when it affects you personally is even worse.
Yeah.
And usually by that age you don't really know that it's just business. Mm-hmm. A con man got you, they got the best of you. You should probably just cut your losses and move on. But I took it very personally. Like, man, this is what it's like to be in the business of being in your own business, of being an entrepreneur. So I knew that I had to get more shrewd in who I chose to do business with, and more shrewd in picking the people that are around me.
Yeah. So I think something that's also interesting that you didn't know was that at the same time you were also dealing with grief because your mother had passed away during that same time. So it seems like all of that, your personal and your professional life, seemed to have been going through a very hard time. What brought you out of that darkness at the end?
Yeah, I mean, it was got even darker because my mom did pass away, and she was always the light in my life. She was always the drive, I think. I owe her a lot. She came to this country with nothing, and she started sweeping floors, delivering pizzas, and anything she could do to push her children forward. Mm-hmm. And so it was a big loss for me and my family. So it just sunk me deeper into depression. And it's hard for people going through depression to hear that time heals all wounds, but it's true. Yeah, I know that I didn't want to hear anything about working out or it's gonna be better one day or it's just snap out of it. It just doesn't work that way. So, but that time does heal all wounds. I started being a little social again. I started buying and selling cars, which was, my hobby. Mm-hmm. And little did I know that it actually became a real business, this car dealership that I formed.
So that was kind of like the light that began to shine on you after?
Yeah, because I got good at something. I got good at selling. I've always been good at selling, but...
Sounds like it. You started at 6,
Exactly. Selling a service and selling a product, in a lot of ways it's the same. But yes... I got good at something, and when you focus on, hey, look, I'm good at something, I'm not total trash, and people can just take advantage of me. I'm providing good service by providing these clean cars to people. I made a business out of it and started Gold Quest Auto out of Southwest Houston, and it went very well for a while. Yeah,
that's awesome. So let me ask you a question. So you got your MBA, right? You go to London. You experience being, as you said, you were the one student that seemed to have had to be working, to actually always continue working with the rest of your class, right? Everybody else seemed to have been there just going to school versus you going to school and working and struggling through school. But do you think you really gained a strong knowledge from your MBA, or do you think that it was all the experiences that you had along the way, or was it like a mix of everything?
Yeah, I think it was a mix of everything. Right after I left... right after I sold my dealership around the recession, there were people 40 years in the business selling their dealerships right and left. So, I actually got lucky and I sold my dealership back then. And I said, well, I'm graduating from college, which I've paid for myself up until this point. I'm sold my dealership. What's next? The recession is looking pretty bad. It doesn't look like there's a lot of opportunity. I think I'm going to take this time in order to educate myself. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what I did. I went to London and applied for this great school, and I got a couple of scholarships. And, it was a 1-year intensive course. I got to see a lot of Europe and travel while studying. So it was a phenomenal time in my life. I learned a lot about business, and I had this is the best part, I had that great aha moment of... hey, I had no idea what I was really doing all this time with, the e-commerce building, with my dealership. But that's why I saw what I saw. I learned what a profit and loss was. I learned, how the normal business processes are. I learned how to actually provide a solution to clients and how to build that brand, how to maintain customer loyalty. I learned a lot of things. So it was good because looking back on it, I had a lot of experience as an entrepreneur and as a corporate employee. But having the MBA taught me to actually apply it in my head and apply it in actual numbers and on paper. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Exactly.
So, most valuable project you did in college, in your MBA program?
Most valuable project was probably to analyze a Gillette project in Thailand. We analyzed how Gillette was actually deploying their marketing techniques in Thailand, which is a place that is renowned for people not shaving.
Oh, I was gonna say, is that the razor?
Yeah, Gillette. The
women
razor,
use
exactly.
Gillettes too, and let me tell you, they're so much better than most of the female razors out there. But okay.
Yeah, exactly. So that was one of the best projects that I remember working, and everything that we had advised Gillette to do, they ended up implementing, and they actually did very well. The sales jumped up 120% after we coached them through how to implement a better marketing strategy.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. And you saw 100% of the profits, right?
Oh, no, I saw 0% of the profits. I got a good pat in the back. Does that count?
Thanks, Boris. Go back home. All right. So let's say you finish college. You finish your MBA. Sorry, not college. But you finish your MBA. You decide you're going to come back to Houston, right? So you join a real estate family business as a mortgage loan officer.
That's right.
After all this experience,
What
makes you go into real estate? Because it sounds like that's your first real, step into it.
I've never been critical of the MBA process, but I do think they put a seed and plant that employee mindset in you. They don't really cultivate a entrepreneurial kind of spirit in folks. They just think that you're going to go get a job after this. And that's all we talked about during the MBA is, okay, what are you going to make after this? And what companies are you going to go work for? And what are you going to be? What's your title? They put a lot of importance in this. And I actually, that's what I believed. And that point is that I'm going to go back and be a great employee. And I'm going to grow my family's company. And that's pretty much all I'm going to do.
So you're a mortgage loan officer then for your family's company at this point?
Yeah, so I came back to Houston and I became a mortgage loan officer, a residential mortgage loan officer, and I did very well. My first few years were just doing straight residential, and then I started to dabble in a little bit of commercial. Then around 2010, 2011, Obama changed the law. Or actually, no. Around 2010, the Obama changed the law, and residential mortgage loan officers couldn't make as much as they did before. So I full-fledged went into commercial real estate.
Okay.
And mortgage.
So you're a loan officer in commercial at that point. Is that, or
correct?
Explain that, because I'm a little confused. I don't understand that aspect of.
So, it's pretty self-explanatory. Residential is just homes. Commercial, things like shopping centers, warehouses, apartment complexes. They're completely two different animals.
Right.
A lot of people don't understand that or fail to comprehend that homes are not equal as a business, right? So a home is valuated for how pretty it is, the location of it, what your neighbors are selling for. And a commercial asset is actually evaluated by the amount of money it makes. And so I was actually fascinated by that whole, idea of commercial property and actually growing a business that is founded on actual real estate.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So what advice would you give somebody who wants to get into commercial real estate?
I would say
Don't do it. No, I'm just kidding.
no, definitely do it. Just be careful because this is a completely different beast than residential. You have to learn way more about finance and not so much about the granite counters matching the cabinets. That stuff still matters, but not as much. You have to make sure not to overspend in a building in order for it to cash flow. You have to make sure you're using the right financial tools, and you have to make sure that at the end of the day you have an exit strategy out of every single deal that you do.
That almost sounds like those are life experiences that you could translate to any situation, right? Like,
true.
Don't overspend, have a good exit strategy, and make sure you're not focusing too much on the details, right? Because things are going to happen anyway.
Yeah, that's true. And in that aspect, that is true. I mean, commercial real estate has taught me a lot about how to connect everything that I've learned up until this point. I used to think that, I took jobs and I founded little businesses. Around when I was 25 years old, I didn't know where it was all leading. Mm-hmm. I just said, hey, where is this all going? What is the point of me being an employee, but also finding these businesses, getting screwed? What is the point of life? Is this going to keep on happening all throughout my life? And so commercial real estate actually gave me that satisfaction of everything you've learned up until this point, everything you've experienced, you're going to apply for this business. And I thought that was phenomenal because I had that great, kind of breathe in and breathe out saying, oh, wow, okay. I used to think that it was all for nothing, and now it all makes sense. Mm-hmm. So for your listeners out there, one of the very best things that I can tell you is just keep going. Keep driving yourself. Don't think that it's for nothing. If you have odd jobs, if you have experience in this and that, you have experience in retail, but you also have experience in banking, don't give yourself up to the idea that this is all for a great design, and you could actually implement all of the things that you've learned into something greater and to something that you're going to be happy doing every day.
That's a really good thing to lead off on, honestly, because, we spend so much time, especially when it comes down to going to college, right? Like, college is supposed to give us this, massive idea that, as soon as I finish, after being from 18 to, let's say, 21, if you're traditional, 22, and finish then, and then you go to your master's degree or whatever, by the time you get out of school, you're supposed to know exactly what you want to be. Yes. And the truth of the matter is, it's like you said, those things don't always work out for everyone. Especially people who haven't been extremely exposed to other avenues outside of what they're just seeing, right? And so that opportunity to really just believe that everything that's happening to you is happening for a reason, I mean, that's really, really a great platform to stand on because,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've never been a big religious man. I do believe in God, but what I'm saying is that your life experiences can lead to something greater. If you let it, if you actually go out there and take advantage of the opportunity that you can have a business based on everything you do like. For example, if you know you're good at selling cars or even good at managing people that wash cars or whatever it is, then why not do something with that? Mm-hmm. Take advantage of the fact that you are talented in a certain area and apply yourself. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But how does a person recognize that they're actually good at something? Like, how do they notice that that's a strength that's big enough for them to take a risk on?
Yeah, I think that it obviously depends on everybody and everybody who surrounds them. If you're surrounded by negativity, you have to make sure to take yourself out of that. Mm. You have to make sure to find yourself in groups that recognize what is each other's strengths. You can't always go up to your friend and tell them, all the negative things that you're not doing with your life. Make sure to tell them something nice about themselves, and you'll be surprised. Yeah. You will hear that in return. You will hear that, hey, you're good at this, you're good at that. Let's do something together. Mm-hmm. Why don't we do that? That's actually how Sanmore Investments got their start. It was me being good at financing properties and being good at being able to identify good properties. My partners joined me, a mechanical engineer and a CPA. One of them is really good at sales and the process of sales, and the other one is really good at analytics. And so you never know what kind of synergy you're going to have unless you actually start surrounding yourself with the positive, right-minded people.
Absolutely. That's so true. I mean, sometimes we also don't realize we could be the negative factor as well. And so when you do start surrounding yourself with people who are not in that mindset, it kind of helps you start to see that maybe, okay, you should start looking at things differently. So it is definitely about who you surround yourself with and, just what lens you use to look out of.
Exactly. If you're, like I said, if you're surrounding yourself by negativity, you yourself are going to become a negative person. So you have to make sure to listen to folks, listen to, podcasts, friends, or even people who you admire, and surround yourself in that mindset. Yeah. I'm a big proponent of podcasts now. Yeah, exactly. You have to listen to empowerment and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, plug. No. But I am so extremely grateful that you came to do this interview with me. And I just want to see if you have any rules or particular words or a quote or something that you live by every day that just helps you in those days that sometimes it could be difficult, or days where you're just like, you know what? It's Monday, it's 5 a.m. As much as I don't want to get up, I'm going to do it because of X. Like, what gets you out of bed and what continues to empower you through, like, any day?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually very good. Everybody should have something to wake them up and make them be a better man or woman, person. I believe, obviously, the wealth of everybody who surrounds me is extremely important. I don't mean just monetary. I mean happiness. I mean being able to provide. I mean freedom to be able to enjoy life, right? A lot of us get wrapped up in just working so we can pay bills, and it shouldn't be like that. There's actually something better than that. So it's being able to provide those around me with a better lifestyle. One of my partners used to work every day. He used to work Christmas Day, New Year's Day, Sundays. He used to work every holiday until 11, 12 at night. His company even built him a little shack inside the office because he was working so much. Obviously, they didn't complain. They just accommodated him more.
That's some serious dedication.
Exactly, right. And now he works with me now, and he probably works, 8 to 5, and he works some nights, but the most important thing is he's able to provide for his family now and provide even better than before for his special needs sister.
So that's so sweet.
Yeah, that's actually what uplifts me, is being able to give people the freedom it is to care for themselves and for everybody they love.
Oh, that's good. That's such a selfless reason to do that. I mean, there's no little part of you, though, too, that is like, oh, I do this because I also want to do X or whatever. But I mean, obviously, that's a very great reason, right? Like, it should always be at your core. There's got to be a little part of you that's like, and I want to do X.
I mean, we all have aspirations. We all have goals, right? I'm human just like everybody else. I embrace the ideas that I want to have this. I want to have a house on the lake. I want to have that car. Why not? If it makes you happy, yeah, sure. It's the little things. You should definitely give yourself little wins. Maybe sometimes go and get yourself that coffee that you want, and because you just satisfy yourself. If you maintain yourself as a positive mindset and don't restrict yourself from happiness, I think it's going to lead to your bigger wins coming faster and easier than before.
Yeah. Well, this was amazing. Thank you again. Like I said, any last words?
Don't drink and drive. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
You might spill your drink. No.
Yeah. Just please, if you're interested in commercial real estate, we do have a counseling, or not counseling, but actually kind of a phase we do with folks who are willing to learn commercial real estate. We coach them through the learning process. And so please check us out. Our website is www.sanmoreinvestments.com. Or just give us a shout, anytime. And we're on social media as well. Sanmore Investments. Look us up.
Awesome. And I'll make sure to tag it on the interview as well in case anybody's interested in reaching out to you.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for the excitement, the story. I really appreciate it. And
you're very welcome.
Hopefully we can do a recap in a little while and see where you're at then.
Let's do that.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Empowerment and All That. For daily inspirational messages, follow me on Instagram at Rita, RITA_Bautista, BAUTISTA 1111, or you can follow Empowerment and All That on Instagram and on Facebook. And remember, keep it positive or don't keep it at all.